everybody, my name's Lesley. Thanks for joining this Q&A. Just to let you know that we lost the first 30 seconds of the call, so I'm just making the introductions right now. On the call we have Matt Stevens from The Fierce and the Dead, asking questions to Tom, who's the guitarist from the Bloody Mallard, Jake, the drummer, and Ray, the bassist. Also joining the call is Jarrad Hearman, who produced the whole album, and we've also got Andy, Dan, and Jarrad asking questions. Well, I hope you guys enjoy the show, and just wanted to say a massive thank you to the Bullfinch Brewery for providing some amazing tasty beers while we had a chat. And just remember, you guys can pick up your album, Realm, off of Bandcamp. Still lots of copies available, and a couple of limited t-shirt designs just for this weekend. See you guys.
My mates at the moment, so it's a bit of a different album launch, this one, but for many reasons, and obviously this is the first thing myself as well in someone else's band, so it feels surreal for a number of reasons, but very good.
The thing is, it'll always be a good story to tell. The first album came out during the most bizarre time in history for 100 years. You know, it's just it will certainly be a useful PR asset, I believe it's called.
It's very
for next time. So.
Yeah. I'll take it.
Okay, cool, brilliant. Well, look, should we just start with a few questions? And Andy, I've got a few ones you sent in. Do you want me to go through it, mate, or do you want to go do them yourself, or how do you want to do it?
I can't remember what I sent.
Hey!
So.
I
think one of them was why is there no singing on the album?
I think that's got to be the first question, hasn't it?
Get it over and done with.
Yeah.
Right, it's a fucking instrumental. It's a fucking instrumental band. Done.
Did you feel that? I think now is probably the best time ever to be an instrumental band, because you can find a niche audience online. There's things like Art Tangent where you can play like big festivals. There's a precedent for bands like Mogwai and and Explosions in the Sky, who are quite big instrumental rock bands. So I don't think it's quite such a taboo thing anymore. So I think how do you feel it's a really good time to be doing instrumental stuff?
I don't know. I feel like it's a frontier that's always been there. You've got like you said, Mogwai, and then Russian Circles really gave it a massive the door 10 or so years ago. I think it's a frontier, not so much a new one, but it's definitely one that hasn't really been explored. And I think now that music's becoming more easy and readily available, you don't just have to go through the bug emotions of radio and what sounds good on radio or music television. There's new sonic areas you can go to with listening. So there's the infrastructure kind of already there. So we're just anything just sort of on the shoulders of giants, basically. And I think it could take off. Who knows? But right now it's just enjoyable to write that way.
It doesn't need singing, though. I don't think. Obviously, having listened to it, it's perfect as it is. Singing would seem odd. Maybe Elder should have taken note out of your book for their latest album. But...
There it is, the Elder dig.
It definitely opens up possibilities. Like, obviously, when there's vocals, it does cause some constraints in a way. Obviously, it opens up possibilities as well, but not having vocals, there's opportunities to do some slightly different things. It's freeing in some sort of way.
It's a great album, mate. It really is. It's brilliant.
Definitely.
I love it.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
And all the feedback of everyone I've spoken to about it, and I've played it to a lot of people, and everybody who's heard it really likes it as well. So that's great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
That's good. So I'm gonna go through Andy's questions now. So
Sorry.
Here we go. No, it's all good. It's all good. Thank you. What was your band life pre-Mallard?
Oh,
to all of you. Right?
All right. Go, let me flip that one to Jake first.
Where do I start? I don't know. Ever since I was young, I wanted to play drums, and I was very lucky because my dad was good friends with a bass player in a band, and I got introduced to the band The Reasoning when I was really, really young. And then past few years, and suddenly. And they asked me, and I tried, and it was great, and it all went really well. They gave me, and then fast forward a few more years, and I don't know. I've just I I've just done anything that came my way, really, and I kind of started to fall in love with writing and recording, and I guess gigging has always been there since I was physically able to do so. I can't remember.
Well, again, I think the drumming on that album is amazing. The fills and stuff are phenomenally fast. So fair play to you, mate.
Agreed. Yeah, awesome.
And also the bass playing is sick ace as well. So.
Thank you very much.
Did make me feel a bit jealous and like, I should go and practice a bit more. Really.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that album is there's a lot going on.
I thought I was doing quite well, and I was like, sugar.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your previous musical adventures?
Well, I guess all got started when I was 11. Started taking keyboard lessons, and I hadn't really discovered rock music yet, or that entire genre. And it was only when I was about 12, 13, I started discovering it and met some friends who got me into a lot of different bands. And initially I joined the band playing keyboards, and then I saw two of my mates playing guitar, and I was like, I want to do that as well. So taught myself guitar, but turns out the band that we were starting already had two guitarists, so decided, okay, I'm going to play bass. And then taught myself
choice.
And then taught myself drums. So I was in that band for about 6 years, gigging heavily around London and the UK. Then life kind of got in the way. We went to uni, the usual, broke up. I've been doing a few projects on and off here and there, bit of session work, released a solo album. But apart from that, haven't gigged for a few years actually. So I'm kind of itching to get back into it.
Awesome.
Bad time to want to get back to gigging, mate, isn't it?
I know. This had to happen right now, didn't it?
Jarrad, do you want to talk a bit about your sort of musical background?
I don't know where to start. I've basically just been working in studios for a good sort of 15, 18 years, I guess. So I guess what a lot of me and Tom have in common is I sort of just came from, I guess, the same background of just, I guess, bands and, I guess, riff-based music, whatever subgenres of that. And then I moved to the UK about just over 10 years ago. And I guess since then I've been in a whole bunch of different genres. So day to day, what I'm working on could be band-based music. All the time it's electronic-based music. Could be R&B one day, could be full-on pop the next day. So yeah, kind of these days, just every day is different. So pretty diverse. But yeah, when it comes to, I guess, working on this project, I guess it went back to a lot of the things that I guess I enjoy when I'm not thinking I'm at work. Just, no real sort of riff-based or just, fun music. For me, it's like what I grew up on. So it all feels pretty at home, I guess.
There's a real sort of joyous feel to the record. It's a great record.
Yeah, definitely.
Just before we move on to the next question, just to mention that Bull and Finch are sponsoring this, and if I can just grab this, which is lovely, isn't it? Isn't that lovely?
I'm on the Luna, and it's delicious.
It's amazing, yeah. So if people in South London, next to Gypsy Hill Station, and they've got a brewery at Herne Hill. They deliver. Tom, how far do they deliver?
I don't know. I know it is South London, but
South London, so,
you want to check the website for that one.
Which is bullandfinch.com. So thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers.
Right, so we're just going to move on to another one of Andy's questions. So I think perhaps we get Tom to answer this one. What inspired you to start the Bloody Mallard?
So I moved to London about 10 years ago to go and play in a band called Monsters in the Attic, which is how I met Lesley and how I met Jarrad. And inevitably, we were a really difficult phase of traditional rock and roll, which is like play loads of gigs, hope somebody picked you up, and the new wave. So I remember and I think Lesley was one of the first people to trial Spotify in the UK when it first came out. We were like, we've got to get it on here. It was it was an amalgamation of where do you put your money, where do you put your effort, and it kind of, in the end, the whole thing sort of disbanded. Unfortunately, we wrote and recorded some really good records in that time, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of done with this a little bit. I need to sort of crack on with my life a little bit. I've got really nothing to show for. So I kind of really put music massively aside. But I guess like brewing for a long time, it's like, look, you came to London to write the music and do the music that you wanted to do and play the influences that you want to play. So just over time, just sitting down with the acoustic, just writing things for fun. It's like, these could actually turn into songs, and I can start arranging it. And that's, that's where I used to spend my days. I used to sit down and just my pastime would just be writing music. Not going anywhere, but just like, how can I form something? How can I create something? And if I was to write something, how would it be? I used to do a lot of that at the Bullfinch. How I know them is they're just down the road. There's a really nice vibe in there on Rosendale Road where it's just really calm. It's not like a pub. It's just a really calm sort of sitting area where you can just drink and read or write.
Cool.
I really vibed well with it, and eventually this whole thing sort of came together. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give this a go. And then I think the first person I presented to was you, Jarrad, actually.
I remember that first meeting you had about it.
Yeah, that was ages ago, wasn't it? Because you were sort of.
I think that was like when you were just basically working out, got this concept. What's even stage one of even getting this off the ground? So
no, I think I just played you literally some voice.
Yeah, super early days. It was just basically it was as much the concept of it as anything.
Did it have singing on the early stuff, Tom?
It did not.
Did Jarrad say get rid of the singing?
He said, "Oh, you can put vocals in it." To which I said, "Probably
this could
not."
be massive if you didn't sing on it, Tom.
I actually sang to him in the bar whilst it was playing on my iPhone, and he promised.
And he still agreed to record it.
Agreed to it. He said, "I'm desperate, Tom. I'll do it." No, so that was it. Eventually, I was like, "I'm just going to write this," and then I wanted Jarrad on board because I thought if I'm going to do something, trust Jarrad completely that it's just going to sound good. You say what you want about the arrangements and no vocals and all that sort of stuff, but I wanted it to sound at least. I wanted it to sound good.
And it does. It sounds amazing.
Cool.
Well done to Jarrad.
Cheers, man.
Yes, well done.
Yeah, remarkable production.
Caught
really remarkable.
everything on
Cheers.
Which was a fun experience.
But I mean, even that early chat, Tom, like we probably then had another chat. Maybe I don't know if it was 18 months that passed before we then next had a chat. Like that was literally that first chat was early conceptual conversation, and then probably 18 months passed. Probably went, and you had to learn. What did you use, Guitar Pro or something in the end? Like
I gave up.
You had to learn some sort of DAW just to at least get the ideas down.
I did. I bought all the kit that you told me. So I've got the interface, got the monitors. I've got with Pro Tools. I've got Logic. I remember.
What did you end up doing the demos on?
It's in the cupboard somewhere.
No, what when you played those demos, what did you do them on?
Oh, that was on guitar. That was. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So you even just had to learn how to get all that down. So that was it was 18 months. So just to even get the ideas out of your head onto something that could be shown to someone else. So that was a task that we had to get over. Was actually how do we hear this? How do we present this concept to even a drummer or a bass player to even begin the conversation of there's this concept in my mind.
Which is remarkable that Jake said yes to it. This is some sort of MIDI monstrosity that came his way. Hi, me got music.
So,
files but I kind of heard through that and I'm like, actually this could be really cool. So then I obviously replied and here we are.
Thank goodness you did.
One of our first chats when me and Tom had beers about was I don't think I said this to Tom exactly, but basically what was going through my head was who the hell are we going to get to play drums? This is going to be ridiculous. So that was. I remember when Tom said he'd found you. It was I didn't really believe it at first. As in, I don't really believe there's someone who's willing to learn this. But when that was overcome, that was a huge hurdle. So that was pretty amazing. That was cool.
But thank goodness you did. Next one of Andy's questions is, where did the name come from?
It's very obvious, but you haven't told me yet. So
so permit me a little bit of mystery with this band, especially in today's information age. I won't say where it came from.
No.
But I will say the reasons I landed on it was an event happened, or a series of events happened, which is far too long to go into. And then the name Bloody Mallard came out of it. And then I was going to call the band Realm, like what the album's called. But there's a band in the 80s called Realm, who were like glam thing, I think. And I was that's done then. And then it also just didn't sit well. I just didn't really feel correct. But the more I thought about like the Bloody Mallard, I was like, kind of feels like reminiscent of like the Mars Volta or like Tame Impala or Pink Floyd. Just kind of one of those sort of like nonsensical names that just is out there, but conjures some sort of right imagery to it all.
I have to say that everyone I've mentioned the name to, they remember it, which is the most important thing. That's all that really matters. Is it's cool. Not obvious, and people remember it, and I think that's the most important thing. And I think with the imagery you've got to backing out the really high quality art, everything sort of correlates. So the other thing we've got is post lockdown. What will be the first thing you do to make you smile?
Go to the pub.
Hey!
Hey!
Yes.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Which pub will you go, Tom? The one that's sponsoring this event?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course you will.
Yes, I will be down the Bullfinch, which makes me smile.
God.
Brilliant. Well, that sounds like the most logical plan. So I've got some questions from Dan. Jarrad, have you got any questions you'd like to sort of bring into the discussion? It's weird when the television talks to you, isn't it? Have you got any questions you'd like to bring into it?
How's this? Can you hear me?
Hi, man. You're right.
Ah, awesome.
Hey,
awesome.
You're right. Have you got any questions you'd like to ask before I move on to Dan's questions?
Like I'm interested in you guys like musical influence. Like I've Tom and I've been talking back and forth in Instagram and stuff for a while, and I can kind of get a sense of like Crimson and Baroness and things like this, and I can hear it in some of the songs. But like what are you guys, all you guys, like what's your influences?
Ray, you go first.
Me first. Well, I listen to most things, surprisingly, apart from hip hop and R&B and that sort of thing. It's mainly rock genres. So when I first started getting into music, my gateway band was Linkin Park, and it was that. I think that's a lot of people's gateway band into the genre. And then I discovered I discovered Muse, Green Day, and then I started getting into more technical bands and metal. Discovered metal and all the subgenres of metal. So it's really hard to say what kind of bands influenced me. So I listened to such a wide variety, from Tool to Metallica to Red Hot Chilies. I think inspiring my bass playing, probably a lot of Chilies and Muse and Metallica, like Cliff Burton Metallica, especially.
Yes,
I love Cliff Burton. He was a great melodic bass player. So that I tried to bring some of that into this album. I mean, most of the bass parts were written already, but I tried to add my own little flair here and there. So yeah, I guess that's it for me. Quite a wide variety of things.
Okay, everyone else?
Tom?
And Jacob?
Maybe.
I should have took control there, really, shouldn't I? Jake, do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. So from a really young age, I was introduced to guys like David Bowie and T-Rex and stuff like that from my mum's side of stuff. And then my dad loved all the weird shit. So Captain Beefheart, Frank Zappa, Pink Floyd, but the weirder Floyd. All that kind of stuff. So I kind of grew up with that going on. And then as I progressed through drumming and just learning the instrument, I fell in love with Gavin Harrison's playing, and it just blew me away how he could change things, but it still sounded the same. It didn't get in the way of anything, but it was still so interesting. In Absentia, Country album, just I studied that album like it was a religion. It was just unbelievable to me. And
I didn't know that, man. We should definitely jam that when you're out. I didn't know you. Yeah.
Album it was like my preteen soundtrack was Porcupine Tree, and that was it. And then I got into like some of the heavier stuff, similar to Ray, and then obviously the Chili's and the Foo Fighters, and then I had a big phase of grunge and Nirvana and all that kind of stuff, and that kind of stuck with me as well, like the really hard-hitting guys, and obviously Zeppelin, hence the tattoo. But yeah, so then I started to get into jazz as well. So it was very much a big kind of amalgamation of all these genres that somehow ended up in the progressive rock kind of field. Just because it made sense to have the heavy stuff with the jazzy stuff, and songs can be, 2 minutes long, 15 minutes long, and have all the genres you can ever think of in between. So it kind of made sense for me to go in that direction, really. So when Tom got in touch with this project, I was like, this could really kind of flex my muscles and be super fun at the same time, and I can sit there and think, what does the song deserve? Not what can I do? What can I do for the song? Which is coming back to what I think Gavin Harrison always did or continues to do, is sit down and go, okay, what does the song need? Not, oh, look at this awesome fill. It's what can I do here to make, which is what I love about that side of thing, and progressive rock in general, really. So that's kind of where I come from.
It was interesting when I found your catalog. It was like your the stuff you were doing was very solid, rock, and very solid, sort of not pop, but it was very very tight sort of playing. I knew on the demos that you were doing, it lent itself to more freer sort of style of playing, and I was hearing Porcupine Tree. I was hearing like Ginger Baker in there as well. I was hearing all these things that I heard in the drum. So when I'd written these god-awful drum lines, which accented the beats correctly, but you kept one. I will say credit to me as a non-drummer. You kept one there. But the rest was like me and Jarrad just looked at each other and just like, let him do it. Just each take, just let him do it. Just and we'll just find it. We'll just tell you when we found it. Which is such a cool way. Like honestly, being sat down with MIDI playing and all this sort of writing, just hearing you play in the studio and all these influences coming out, you could just hear it. And like, me and Jarrad and sound engineer, the guy who was
that's right.
Coco, just buzzing in the other rooms. It was the best way to start recording an album.
Yeah, I think that's almost the ideal way for me personally, and because I do a lot of soundtracky stuff as well, and whenever I get sent any visuals, I just sit down with the piano and just play for whatever is there. So it's almost like a stream of consciousness type thing, and that's how I approach the drums, because you're in that element, you're there. You want the listener to be there as well. You don't want them, sometimes you do of course with certain types of music, but for something like this, you almost want people to go, oh yeah, all right, if I turn around the guitarist is there, or if I turn around the bass player is there.
Mm-hmm.
They want them to be in the room with you. You don't want them to go, oh yeah, they sat down and thought this out for years. Even though we did. You don't want them to feel, and that's I like the way and have Jarrad in the headphones to go, mate, what the fuck was that? You just get in you really get in the zone.
Yeah, we were in the zone, man, for sure.
Tom, do you want to talk about your sort of musical background?
I mean, very, very quickly, it's been gone over a million times, but yeah, I grew up with like Clapton in the household. My dad got me into it, and I finally picked up the guitar. I picked it up when I was 7, when I was 10, and I finally got into it when I was like 14, 15. Shante was a big influence at the time. There were a lot of things, metal was going through some weird changes from new metal, Mastodon, Baroness, Tool, and then I backtracked from my dad's catalogs again, so I discovered, you know, Floyd, Captain Beefheart. Captain Beefheart was a big one. Cream was a big one. Blind Faith is a big one. I'm sort of revisiting that one a little bit in terms of influences, and you know, pretty much all the classics really. I'm a little bit like Ray. I haven't really strayed into hip hop or anything like this, and you know, the weird thing is like I don't fault it or anything like that. It just doesn't connect. You know, I hear it and I break it down. You know, objectively, I'm like, yeah, the grooves, that moves, but I don't know. It just doesn't connect. So it's not through fault of that, but it's just I think there's things that resonate with you and things that don't. Those are the ones that resonate with me, and those are the ones that I wanted to bring out into the album. And
that honesty sort of comes through on what you're doing. That you're not trying to. This doesn't sound like it's been tacked together. It comes through an amalgam of influences, which is what you need to achieve with a record like that. So I mean, that's really sort of. It's very easy to stick bits together if you listen to a lot of prog albums. They tend to be welding parts together, and you can see the scaffolding. Whereas with what you've done with this record, you've built it up, and it's created this sort of organic whole, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just ask, was it recorded live, Tom? Did you do like much of it live, or was it drums and then guitar on top and then bass?
No, the three of us have only played live once.
When you recorded the album?
No, after.
Right.
Although we did pre-production, like Jake and you, like we did pre-production.
Actually, yeah, we did pre-production. Me and Jake. Actually, no, yeah. So we did 2 sessions of going through it, and oh god, yeah, we got rid of one of the songs, didn't we?
Yeah. So there was some time where we spent in the rehearsal room just like going over the record and stuff. So
yeah,
like, it's got a very live feel about it, which is good. Then, so that's cool.
But that's absolutely key to do. Like just the fact that Jake, you never played the same line twice, you know, is exciting to me. You know, it's like I love bands where if you go and see them live, it's unique. And if the three of us as a trio can provide that, then I get excited by that.
We also did. There wasn't really the time to do it otherwise as well. Like we didn't have a week to do the drums. We had 2 days. So it was like if we would have obsessed over everything and made it all completely perfect, we literally perfect's not the right word. If we'd
still be recording it.
Yeah, we just wouldn't have had time to do it. So it was basically like that with all the parts as well. Like we sort of had to crack on a little bit as well, which was good.
Yeah,
that was to our benefit.
This one was literally in the nook and crannies of everyone's free time.
Yeah.
You know, it was weekend jobs. There was no like during the week you do this. You know, it was everyone's weekends, everyone's evenings. And it was spread out, you know, because people got to live and you know refresh. I'm going to come into the studio knackered.
There's benefits to it, though. I think it was like for the reasons that you guys are sort of talking about. I think those were some of the upsides to having to do it that way. Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think everyone wanted to make it work. The great thing about it is like everyone, Jarrad, Ray, and Jake, you know, knew exactly what to do with it. That just made it so much easier for me. I could just kind of let them do their thing, and I just steer and direct it as it needed to. But for the most part, it was like we all hear what it needs to do. We all kind of congruently groove with this. Just let it be, and we can ask questions as we go. But let's just let it be.
Awesome. Dan, are you there?
Yes.
It's like a seance, isn't it? I've got. Do you want to go through your questions? Do you want to ask your questions? How do you want to do it, mate?
I didn't catch that. Sorry.
Do you want? Yeah, Northamptonshire accent. Do you want me to go through the questions you sent in, or do you want to go through them yourself, or how do you want to do it?
Please go through them. I think you've touched on some of those things.
So how do you guys sort of? So this is from Dan. How do you guys sort of view your musical vision, and how? So we've sort of spoken a bit about this and how it's evolved, but one of the points that Dan makes is, where do you see yourselves going? What's the next step?
Yeah, I did bloody see this question, and before I gave it to everyone else, and then I thought, let me make a note of that one, and I just forgot about it. So, like on release day, it's like being asked, you know, like if your wife gives birth, you know, when's the next one coming? Yeah.
That's where I was headed.
So live performance would be the next thing.
I mean, absolutely key. I mean, I was going to say live performance is the obvious one to go with. So me and Jake were briefly talking about. I mean, I've been writing for a series of 3 EPs to be as the next follow-up for this one, as a sort of volume 1, volume 2, volume 3 sort of evolved thing where they all work. I like the idea of trios and circular sort of things and the power of 3. So I really like that idea. I've been writing songs towards that. We want to do gigs. We've got Progfest next year that hopefully will go ahead. And I know, Matt, me and you have been talking about supporting you guys for the
fest. Definitely,
you know, this is normally the part where we go to, you know, start approaching people and saying, hey, have you heard about us? Have you seen our release? We'd be interested in take us on. And, you know, we just haven't done that at the moment with times. But in terms of other projects to go on, wanting to get a live recording done, almost like a Pink Floyd thing done, where we can do it in like an apple orchard or a field or something like that, and just kind of capture. The home for the Bloody Mallard is definitely in Kent. Even though I live in London and Jake and Ray are you know, from North London at best. The home for the Bloody Mallard, and it's where it all comes from, is definitely in Kent. And you can bring it home to her in that sort of sense, then that would be a really cool sort of songs that we could put together. Hopefully we might have more content by then. So those are the ideas. Do you do live shows to get some? I mean, it all depends. Live shows, what happens. But if not, I guess the next thing, to answer your question, Dan, sincerely, is writing the next. Just writing and writing. What happens that way?
What I'm just going through Dan's ones here. What was the best show you've ever played, and why do you consider it the best? So I suppose it's with your previous projects rather than the Mallard.
Yeah, I would say it's for the Mallard, but Jake, you've probably got a good one to tell, I bet.
Oh, best show was probably High Voltage Festival in Victoria Park. It was years ago now, but it was my first gig. We had potentially the worst slot. Turned out to be the best slot, but it was Sunday morning. I think it was I could be wrong. And we were like, oh, well, you know, it's a big festival, so it's going to be a decent crowd, but it is Sunday. It's the second day of the festival. Matt, you may have even been there.
I think that was the one. Was that the year Emerson, Lake and Palmer headlined?
That was it.
Yes, it was very good.
Yeah.
Yes, there was lots of people there when you played.
Yeah, well, yeah, we turned up, and obviously it was such a mad rush because we were the first band on. So they were like, yeah, here's your stuff, here's the thing, you know, set your stuff up, okay, go. And it was the first festival experience for me. Oh, what's going on? And then you're on stage.
Yeah. No sound check. Good luck, you're on. Off you go.
God.
To be told about maybe a few hours before that, oh yeah, it's being filmed. What? Oh, it was intense, but just being on that stage and playing, I think we played a total of 4 songs, but it's a prog stage, so.
Man, 4 hours.
Wicked! It was so much fun, and yeah, we had a really good crowd. I think someone did a weird rough head count, and there was about 6,000 people watching, roughly, and it was just it's the best feeling. And then it came off stage, and I remember later that afternoon, me and my dad and my uncle actually watched Zappa play Zappa, which was such a brilliant experience. Going, I was on that stage 4 hours, 15 years ago. I was on that stage.
Awesome.
Such a good experience. But that's definitely.
Cool. Tom?
I'm really struggling to think, actually. probably list my worst ones.
That's it. Everyone can do that.
Yeah.
I could go
Everyone's
if
got
you want,
one
Tom.
where they play to the sound engineer. Everyone's got that one. The best gig. It may have been one of the Halloween balls we did with Monsters in the Attic. I look back on those days quite fondly. Actually, we do gigs. 12 Bar was always a good place to do gigs in Soho. We used to get like the 2 a.m. in the morning slot, and normally people go, "That's terrible." But it's like that was the best time when everyone used to come out and just pile into this small venue and just go absolutely off the hook, and then pile in the car, get all the equipment in, and we go back to our drummer's house, and we'd have a barbecue at 4 o'clock in the morning. Those were good days. Those were just fun, good. It didn't matter if it was in February, line up the barbecue. Fun. I played big stages, but I like the small stuff. I like where you're in the face of the crowd. That's what I do miss about playing in a punk band, is like you have that sort of in your face attitude that is incredibly quickly to you. If you give it to the audience, they give it back to you in spades. I'm not sure how we do that with the Bloody Mallard. Time will tell. I don't know.
Do you think you'll use projections and those sort of things? You've got such a strong sort of visual aesthetic. Would that something you'd like to still continue over into the live show?
I'd love to. I mean, I think what works with the Bloody Mallard is, I think it is quite a visually, people go on their own journeys with it, and I think the trick with visuals, and I'm very sort of cautious about doing this with the music videos, is not to tell people what they should be feeling or should be seeing when they listen to it. Obviously, it has an aesthetic, and obviously it has these sort of things. There's obviously a practicality with the visuals, and I'd love to do it. And I certainly have ideas about what I want to do, but I'm also very trying to be a little bit considerate about the way I interpret it. I shouldn't be dictating what other people feel about it. And again, that's another reason why I don't have a singer in it. And when people go, "Oh, you should do this, you should do that," it's like that's cool. That's your imagination working. That's what I want you to do, And so visuals are things I'm toying in my mind, because I've got a million ideas of what I do with that, but the practicality how I do it, and B is like good, but is it telling too much? And is the magic of this in the space? Is the magic of this in the nook and the cranny of letting people find the magic out of this? Why the guitars?
Maybe the answer is hallucinogenics for everyone at the concert to see whatever they want.
I believe there's a notorious incident of Monster Magnet playing to 20 people in a bar, and they thought, we haven't got a light show, so we'll just give acid to everybody in putting everyone's drinks. Whether it works or not, I don't know, but I think you might be in a bit of trouble.
I think Tom should give it a go.
If I see you at Prog Fest, Andy, I'll know what's happening.
Christ, prog stock's hard enough as it is, mate.
Walking around like this.
Ray, what about yourself, mate? What about what's your best show you've done?
Not as big as Jake's, but Jake can agree with me. From about 2005 to maybe for 5-10 years, there's a really good rock music scene in Enfield, in all the bars around Enfield, and there were gigs every weekend and even during midweek, and me and Jake were playing those gigs every week in different bands. That's kind of how I met Jake, through bands. And one of the best shows were when my band were headlining a small bar called Barform in Enfield Town. Jake knows it. And it was absolutely rammed. It was packed. You couldn't see the exit, even though it's such a small venue. There was just steam from everyone's sweat. And it was just a really good show. And, it's when people are coming up to you, don't even know, saying that they love your music and loved your show.
Awesome.
That's kind of a good feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's something that kind of sticks out in my head. Even though it was a small show, it was just great to get that feedback. So
is there still a music scene there?
Unfortunately not. It's kind of died out. Don't know where it's gone.
Time to bring it back.
Yeah. Great.
Right now. But...
Yeah, it used to be great.
Might be a while.
Jake knows as well, yeah.
And the other thing from one of Dan's ones is, do you steer the music in a particular direction to instigate listener involvement? So what are you trying to achieve? You know, you said before you don't want to guide the listener too much, but do you feel like are you trying to give them a specific feel? Is that something that, you know, is that part of the production process? Is that something, how much are you trying to, you thinking about the effect it has on the listener, the music you're creating?
I like them to try and clap along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's serious.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not going to wiggle to it, then I'm not interested.
Do you feel there's a cinematic element to what you're doing? Because to me, when I listen to it, there's a, you know...
First CD I ever bought legitimately, like with my own money, was the Alien 3 soundtrack. I've loved films and movies more first before music. And I think one of the things I wanted to bring to the Bloody Mallard that was different to other bands, all other bands I was playing in, is like I didn't really want to please the audience. Like I would write stuff that meant something to me, and then if it's still something meant something to me a week later, or still something meant to, you know, and you know all this sort of stuff as you go through the writing process, kill your darling, get rid of it if it's not working. But I think the key thing was that I was trying to write from the point of sincerity. I think it's probably the easiest way to say it. If you were writing something to say, oh yeah, then this is just a riff for the sake of being a riff, then there's no point doing it. Everything needs to have a purpose. Everything needs to have a reason. And there's, without going too deep into it, but there's for me, like, the Bloody Mallard is like, for me, not for you guys, but for me, it's like a 2-point journey, which is like from the everyday to, for me, which is what I was like going out into like rural Kent, where I'm from, but like there'd be like a space where you'd be like breathe, to reflect, and then there'd be the point afterwards. And you know, that's just the higher place and different place you can get to. I was always interested in writing stuff that would make me feel about one of the two of those things. So if it resonated with those 2 points, I would keep it in there, because generally the feedback I get from people would be like, oh, that's interesting. And then I'd know why it was interesting to them, because I was coming to that place as well.
So by creating that feeling in yourself, you're inadvertently instigating those feelings in someone else, because that's the difference between art and craft, isn't it? Stuff that you're creating because it's creating the feeling in yourself, rather than trying to craft something as a product. So that's the integrity of what you're doing, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, like, first of all, if it's not impressing yourself, if you're not moved by it, then how do you expect other people to be moved by it?
Totally.
And that's the first thing. It's like, don't just write the hard thing is like writing notes. You've got a 1 in 12 chance of getting it right with the next note that you play, you know, and even then there are rules put into it, but that's not the point. You know, it's like, what does this mean? Where are you going with this? What does it mean to you? What's the universal meaning here?
I get the feeling when I listen to it, there's something very organic in it, almost like, I don't know, I sit and listen to it when I'm in the garden and stuff and look at like nature, and it seems to link really well, only for me, to like a very organic nature. There's like a sense of something growing within the music, if that doesn't sound too pretentious, but it does. It's like a seed that starts and then it grows throughout the album into this massive like oak tree. It's like, that's the journey it takes me, and that's what I love about it. It takes me on a journey, and that's what good music should do, I think.
That's cool, man. That's totally where it takes me as well. You know, I take those elements organically, and like I that's why I like Jake's playing, you know, like they got it, you know. And I think there is something we funny enough, Matt, me and you and Lesley, we've talking about like who's the audience we need to, you know, do our marketing to, and there's no
farmers.
Acid riddled farmers.
Acid agriculturalists.
Well, I think that touches on the spirit of what I was asked, what I was the question there. You know, if it resonates with a listener, you know, that vision, you know, that's the engagement for me. So that's great. Thanks.
Awesome, man. That's a good question. That was a difficult question, but it was a good question, man.
A really good question. Yeah, nice one. I think that's the majority of that we sort of touched on the other ones went through.
Yeah, you hit all.
What if, as Dan says, look, what's next? I mean, where do you guys see the band in sort of 5-10 years time? What band would you like to tour with? Where do you sort of see it going?
King's Pistol. Oh God.
Hey!
King's Pistol go. We you know, lurking in the shadows.
You can come. We'll take you down. Don't worry.
I definitely see more music to be written and played. I think all of us feel that way. There's more to it in the sense, and I'd love to do it with exactly the same people, because you know it's hard to get people to key into this, even though it's very obvious, you know, once it's there. But to get people to key into it is tricky. So I'd like to do it with exactly the same people we have in this room. Again, more music to be done. I would love to do like festivals where it's like out in the woods or something like that. You know, just something where it's just completely taken away from the Reading environment and all the other. I mean, I love those things, but I think it could speak greater volumes if we're not competing against everything else. But we are, in the elements of sort of more rustic areas. 5 years time, I'd love
farms again. It's all about farms, Tom.
It is. You know what? You know, I'm just going to build a farm or buy a farm.
And take acid.
Yeah, and then just make it into some weird ranch with Kool-Aid, you know, and get everyone to drink that before a show. And
you got inbuilt. If you got your own cult, you've got an inbuilt audience, so you've got no worries.
You know what? You know, that playlist that I wrote is getting mighty strong now. No, I honestly.
Thinking about it.
I don't know where it will go. I'd like to be part of my life for quite some time, without being, you know, too intrusive on my family and stuff.
Do you see sort of what sort of bands have you thought like Baroness and Elder and people like that you'd like to tour with?
You know, I'd love to go on tour with those guys and Yob, and even there's just so many good bands that are underground at the moment. I just want to sort of play with and just like reach out to, like, so many good bands in the underground. It's intimidatingly good at the moment. I just want to play with like as many as I can, to be honest. No, it's not practical to do, but I mean, you know, there's no favoritism in there, or like if the band's big enough, it's like if it works and it vibes, then I think that's the sort of best thing to go for. The underground scene is, I think, probably only going to get stronger, especially in these times. It's like people are just going to rally together stronger than they've ever done. And the underground scene is this tight. You know, if it gets tighter and stronger, that's when this stuff comes out of.
Have you thought that one thing I'd like to see you guys do is because it's quite remarkable production and sound wise, I'd love to see the gear you use and some of those sort of things. And I'm a bit of a music nerd, so I'd love to see your pedals and stuff. And I'd love to see like play along videos and stuff like that, because there's so many interesting things going down. I'd like to see how it all works. And I also know there's lots of other nerds like me who also enjoy that as well. So
we might disappoint them with the details.
I say that's blowing. That's like a magician showing his power tricks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell Matt you're not going to show him his pedals, mate.
Hey.
Yeah. One thing I'm going not to do is leave my pedal board exposed to a guy called Matt Stevens' loop. Just open for dismantling. You know, I've got I have a pedal. You know.
But, I remember going to see King Crimson and seeing Robert Fripp's set up on stage, and he's just like, "Wow, I'm not even in the game," you know. So
he's got like a cocoon of sound, you know. All of them got little cocoons. There's like little segmented pods on the stage. It was great. I mean, like King Crimson, Jesus, that's the highest band I've ever seen. Like,
I've got a tuner pedal.
Can't go wrong with the tuner. The most important factor.
It's the only one I can
really
use.
annoys me about these pedal, like any sort of YouTube. What's the one pedal? It's like a bloody tuner.
Yeah.
Get a bloody tuner.
I think
is all you need to do.
But I would say that pedal boards and modular synthesis is just train sets for music nerds. So it's and the most important thing is actually to make records. And I think most of those people who are on forums and on making videos on the internet don't actually make any records at all. So you've done the most important thing. You've made a remarkable record.
But
and
I have to hand this one to Jarrad, because like we Jarrad understood exactly what we wanted to do, and we wanted to get like almost slightly garage sort of feel to it, like that sort of, me and Jake were joking about this yesterday, but it's like this wasn't supposed to be a crushing album. It's supposed to insinuate that in points, but it never quite is, and that's the point. They're supposed to ride the lightning a little bit, like cool light.
I think like maybe following on from like Matt's question, it's almost like maybe in this genre, and to be honest, in so many musical genres, people get sort of caught up in the gear and all this, like all that sort of stuff. In reality, I mean, Tom, without giving it away, we made the record with one guitar amp and about 5 pedals. Like the rest is, do you know what I mean? Like it's not, we didn't have this huge arsenal of weapons that we sat there like scratching our foreheads and pondering the future of prog metal, which pedal we should choose. And it was literally like, we've got these 4 to work with. What tone do we hear in our head? Cool, let's get it out of that amp. And sometimes that took 30 seconds. Sometimes it took 2 hours. But
there's the wife.
I mean, the other thing as well is there's obviously been a lot of attention made to arrangement, dynamics, and ultimately that's what makes records work.
Yeah, that's probably the more important stuff. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to sit and talk about pedals all day, but
me too.
But that's not actually what. That's not the job in hand. The job is to actually make really great records, and that's the that's the important bit.
It's the less cool stuff to talk about, but that's.
But you've done that.
Really, really disappointed is that when they asked me like, "How'd you get that tone?" I'm like, JCM 800. Back up to 6.
It's a Sun Model T preamp that it's obviously discontinued.
It's modelled on a
Only 3 of them ever made.
I'll write you saying to hide. Don't worry. I've got all that stuff. I've got that covered.
Tell them it's a rock tech distortion.
It's on a Zoom pedal.
Zoom 1010.
Zoom 1010, yeah, the classic. Have any of the guys got any more questions they'd like to ask before we wrap up?
When's my record going to get here, Tom? Blimmin' heck.
It should be with you. I'm not saying now, but it should be with you now. So
it's not. I've looked. It's not here.
Bank holiday.
Yes, yeah.
Way.
I can't wait to get it anyway. So
I know some people have got the vinyl by itself, so it might be a T-shirt thing.
Greedy.
One of my friends showed me a photo of the sorting offices at the moment, and apparently it's like Christmas every day in the post office. So it's so hard to get anything.
But that's a nice feeling. Christmas every day.
You say that. Roy would have liked it. Has anyone else got any other questions they'd like to put to the guys?
I've got one.
Lesley.
Yay.
So maybe this would be like a lot of people have heard the singles but not listened to the album yet. Where would you recommend listening to the album? Andy's recommended The Garden. I listened to the album whilst reversing into a ditch in the lake. I don't recommend that.
Looking for an acid farm, probably.
What would you guys recommend?
Do you know what? Let's go around the table. Ray, you go first. Where'd you recommend it?
Anywhere where you got some deep thinking to do. Because the great thing about this record is that there are no lyrics. So you can just zone out, listen to the music, and have that kind of dialogue in your head going. But that's when I'm sitting outside in the garden, I know it's already been said, it's a good time to listen to it, or when you're on a walk or doing something like that. That's when I'd recommend it.
I agree with that. Jarrad?
Yeah, I guess like I sort of agree with that. Like it's interesting how the nature thing keeps coming up. So yeah, I won't sort of go into that any further, but I guess maybe me and Tom are sitting there going, that's actually cool. There's a few sort of things woven in there, and it's nice that people are sort of picking up on that. So yeah, I think like outdoors, most importantly, just if you can find 39 minutes to sort of take it in. I personally find like it goes past pretty quickly.
It's a good bath album. It's a nice bath album.
39-minute bath, he's saying. So yeah, just
40-minute bath.
Anyway, you can just take in the whole thing because it is like a little journey that's worth taking in as one experience, at least a couple of times, I think.
Yeah. Jake, what would you say in your Shoreditch flat right now?
Nature in the middle of a Shoreditch. I don't know. I listen to majority of my music on the go. So either I'm at home and I'm working at my home studio, or I'm at my studio working in my studio. So it's like I have no time to listen to music. So I listen to music on the go, headphones, walking around. So I would suggest that. But or maybe through the park or woods or something, and just stick the headphones on and get lost without getting lost.
Yeah. Good way of putting that.
What about Andy? You'd recommend it in the bath, would you?
On acid in a farmer's field in an old empty bathtub filled with baked beans. That's what I did anyway. It was amazing.
I tell you what, Jarrad, you're in Oregon, aren't you? So you're not shy of some pretty scenic places to go to. What would you recommend from your side?
I've done the walk. Listen, you can't recommend that high enough.
Acid baked bean bath yet, though.
Yeah, of course. And I mean,
I'm having the wrong baths. That's all I know.
I always suggest without put on headphones, walk in one direction. As soon as it's over, start it over again, and walk back, because there's always something. The first time is always it's always different every time. There's in this album especially, there's a lot of little subtle things that will bubble up to the surface, and each listen is its own unique experience, and even back to back, it's you guys. This is awesome. You guys killed it on this album. Really awesome.
Thank you, man.
Cheers.
Thank you. I've not done it back to back. That's true. $5,000. We're so excited.
Oh yeah, and I mean the playing is exceptional. The songwriting is outstanding, and the sound is. It's like you're in a room, like in a candlelit room. Like it just sounds amazing.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Great day.
I think that summed up the experience for a lot of people. So, has everybody sort of concluded the listening experience?
Dan?
Dan?
Yeah. I love that. I love what Jarrad said. It strikes me just like that. I work from home a lot, and I've constantly got music on, and it really helps me. It helps me focus, but it also I find myself kind of getting into the music. It's I won't say it's distracting, but it seems to keep pulling me back in. So yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Okay, so just to wrap up, I just want to thank Bull and Finch again for the awesome beer. There we go. And it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with everybody. Been awesome. Are we all done,
Tom,
Lesley?
and all the other boys?
Yay!
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you,
Absolute
everyone
pleasure.
here. Everyone's been awesome in terms of their contribution. I've said it on Instagram. I've said it a million times to you personally, but sincerely, thank you, guys. I mean, this started in the room I'm sitting in now as a weird project on my acoustic guitar, and to be talking about this and talking about like sales and talking about like reach and all this sort of stuff is like, I didn't expect this. So thank you everyone who's taken it to their hearts and shared it. So like, honestly, massive.
Big ups, man, big ups.
Thank you.
So we're going to continue the conversation online. A lot of people will be watching this as it's broadcasting, and some people might be watching it a couple of days after. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments below. Tom will probably answer them. And yeah, we really look forward to hearing what you guys think about what's been said this evening, or what's been happening in the chat. I guess we'll just see you online. Thanks everybody for joining.
Great getting to know you guys a little bit. Thanks.
You too.
Thanks for joining.